Welcome to the Real Estate Dads podcast, where we explore the intersection of real estating and dadding. Today, we have a little treat for you. A new entry to real estate entrepreneurship. Michael Peeler has only been in the game for 3 years. He came into it right out of college 3 years ago and has closed as many deals in that time frame as lead sponsor and has one in contract now. Also, he's got a little son that's only been here for 7 months. So super excited to dive into this story and how he has ramped up rather quickly, in my opinion. So without further ado, Michael, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thank you. Glad to be here.
So let's get the rundown. So you're a dad, and let's hear about your business. Hear about both.
Yeah, so I started my real estate investment firm about 3 years ago. As soon as I graduated college, I jumped right in, met my business partner, Gavin. He was doing remodeling and unit turns for a lot of owners in the cities. And he and I connected and started what now is North Lone Star Capital. And so we were doing apartment syndications. So we own and operate apartments in the Twin Cities and Rochester, Minnesota. So Southeast Minnesota and Minneapolis, St. Paul area. So we've been doing that about 3 years now. Last year was the first year where it really took off for us. We closed 3 deals as a lead sponsor. We have experience as being LPs, as being a small percentage of ownership on the GP side. But then last year is when business really started to take off. So it was an exciting year for us, and we're on a good trajectory this year as well. And then through all that, my wife and I had our firstborn, little boy, Morgan, in November last year. So it's been a challenge, but it's been very rewarding. Being a full-time dad and full-time business owner at the same time, because I'm all in on the real estate side. I don't have a W-2. I'm full-time real estate investment firm owner operator. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been tricky, but definitely wouldn't trade it for anything else.
How old are you?
I'm 27. So I took technically 2 gap years. So I graduated from college in 2021.
3 years ago, right?
Between high school and college, I took 2 years off and played junior hockey in Austin, Minnesota. So I started school a little bit late. So I was a 21-year-old freshman. So I'm from Dallas originally and played hockey, and then moved up to Minnesota to play junior hockey, and then ended up going to school here, and then met my wife, and she's from the area. So we're sticking around for now.
Yeah, no, what's the, is your wife working, or is she full-time mom? She work with you? What's that situation?
Yeah, no, she's she works full-time. She's a mental health counselor. So, we thankfully have, her parents, my in-laws, live less than 10 minutes away. So a lot of times we'll drop him off. That's where he's at today. We'll drop him off at the in-laws, or she'll come over to our place and help out. Cause my wife, she's actually able to work from home 4 days out of the week. So that helps. And so she can pop her head in and help out with the baby. But, we're both full-time, working, and then also parents. So it's quite the adventure.
So let's hear about it. How are you sleeping?
I will say if we had this call probably 2 months ago, my answer would have been so bad, but it's gotten better. At some of those days at the beginning it's so hard. Relatives to some other friends that we have who have kids, he's not a very good sleeper. I was literally having to hold him to sleep. He wouldn't sleep by himself. So, in the middle of the night, waking up 3-4 times just to pick him up and sleep with him on my chest. So those days were very, very hard. Sleep whenever you can.
Hated it, but I bet you hated every second of it though, right?
No, come on. Yeah, no, those are tough moments, but they're super peaceful. It's really cool, to see your little guy, resting and sleeping on your chest. So it's a different level of, it's hard, but it's extremely rewarding. So at the same time that you're like dead and half asleep and need 10 cups of coffee a day, it's also just as much rewarding. So
I'd actually just genuinely want to ask you what, we haven't had a new dad in a little bit, and we don't get them that often. So I'm curious about hearing what the biggest challenges you're facing right now with a 7-month-old. What are you currently going through?
We somewhat got a lot better with sleeping. Sleeping was so tough. He was not the easiest sleeper. We started sleep training, which is fun, about a month ago, and that's gone really well. So right now, honestly, it's teaching him how to eat, which he doesn't want to do, just spits food out as soon as it hits his tongue. And then, just staying on top of the sleeping. So we were out of town last weekend and we had the sleeping down, but now somehow he learned to roll over to his belly, but not roll back to his back. So we'll sit him in there. He'll roll to his belly and just scream and freak out and won't roll back. And so we have to pop in every, 5-10 minutes to flip him back over, and then he rolls back. So sleeping has become a challenge again, unfortunately. So that's what we're dealing with right now. Last night was not a good sleep night. So if I've got bags under my eyes, that's why.
Now that you mentioned it, I didn't notice them until you until you prompted me to actually look right under your eyes. What are you doing for sleep training?
We've got. We should get my wife on here. She'd love to share what we're doing, what the program is. But basically, we're teaching them to self-soothe. Essentially, is kind of what we're doing. So we pop in. If he cries, he's in his own room in his own crib. If he cries for 5 consecutive minutes, we pop in for 20 seconds, let him know we're there. And then it'll be 10-minute and then 15-minute increments after that if he's still crying. So
is this the taking care of babies?
That sounds right. That might be. I don't know. My wife just told me what we're doing.
There's an online resource. It's a woman named Kara, and she has a resource called Taking Care of Babies. And I'm not sure if she really invented this or she's just.
It's really popular.
But it's really popular. But we did a very similar thing. It's the coaching of the baby to let him know that you didn't leave him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's still. As soon as you leave the room, just the big gasp of air and then just the wailing, crying. It's tough. It's sad. It's not easy to let them be there just crying by themselves. But eventually, they've teach themselves how to soothe.
Yeah.
Which we had it down, and then literally went out of town and kind of screwed up the whole sleep schedule, and we're kind of back to square one again.
We have a rule in our house that when we're home, it's pretty structured. The sleep schedule, but when it's the weekend or when we leave, there's no rules. And we just that now that's that expectation, as soon as we get home, the rules are back. But in different scenarios, we don't try to, it's like trying to put a square peg in a round hole,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We were sleeping in the same room as him in a hotel. And so our thoughts were, if we just ignore him and we're literally in the room, that I don't know if that's going to screw something up. So we just rocked him to sleep like we used to.
It's pretty funny how we ask how is parenting going, especially in that first year. The answer is very week to week. The only answer as far back as a couple days. How is this week? Well, this week, and then there's a very specific answer. So I'm always interested to hear how it's going for the new parents.
I guess one thing if we're speaking about this week, my boy ruined a nice couch we have downstairs.
Oh, yeah?
Pooped right through his pants. Yeah. Got all over the couch. So that's what's most new.
Back?
He was on my leg. I was bouncing him and it came right down the bottom, right straight on the couch. So, we need to get that thing reupholstered because that stain is not coming out. So,
Max,
week to week.
Max has got a 30-day-old now? How old's your recent child?
I have my youngest is just over 2 months now. Yeah. So we're going back through it. So
that's awesome.
I have a 2.5-year-old. And, and now we have a 2-month-old, and it's funny hearing your story because it's just, I don't know. I didn't even think about it. Whereas I was thinking about back when we had our first one, it seemed like such a big deal. And now with our second one, it doesn't feel like it.
Doesn't it feel easier?
Second.
You just know what to expect?
A lot easier. Yeah, I know what to expect. We're not panicking as much. I think with our first one, it was really similar where, because our daughter, she likes to be held. We put her down. It's very similar. You put her down and it's immediate crying.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because for us, and I'm sorry, Matthew, we want to hear more about your story than my stuff, but we do go over some of these things. But we're doing potty training with my 2.5-year-old right now. And that has become not really, it's going fine, but it's a lot harder when our daughter is screaming. So we put her down because we're doing something with him, and she's just like screaming at the top of your lungs, and and when you are holding a baby and it is screaming in your face or it won't calm down, it's very I don't know what the right term is. It hurts on the inside. Like you want to help, you want to soothe the baby, you want them to not cry, you want to help, you want to be a parent, and sometimes you just can't do it, and it just it's one of those really challenging things. But I had to remind my wife. She's like, was Graham like this? And I was like, he was worse. He was worse. And we had a ball. We had one of those workout blue balls. We put it in his room, and we had to sit on it to bounce.
That's what we do. Yeah.
And
like the exercise ball.
Mm-hmm.
But it's gotten easier. It's definitely gotten easier.
Yeah. At this point, I cannot imagine. I mean, obviously, like you, people do it, but I can't imagine, doing this again while you've got a toddler running around like that. It somehow you find, the capacity to do it, but at this point, it doesn't seem possible.
Well, one of those conversations with your wife on number 2, are those conversations even happening yet, or is she just like, don't talk to me about it?
Yeah, no, we definitely we want more, but yeah, it'll probably be we'll have a little bit of a break, but we definitely want. She comes from a family of 4. I come from a family of 4. So we're thinking, yeah, maybe 3 or 4 is kind of what we're shooting for.
So what's the longest that, is it a son or a daughter? I don't know if I asked.
Son. Yeah.
So what's the longest your son has cried that, cause you mentioned the increments like 5, 10, 15, right? What's the record to your knowledge?
It's probably been like 40, 45 minutes, which
that's what mine is too. I timed my daughter once or twice. Yeah.
Oh gosh, that makes me feel so lucky. Ours was 17 and a half.
Oh my goodness. That's nothing.
Yeah. that might be our average.
My wife was sobbing. She was sobbing, feeling so bad that we put him in there and he's crying.
One time we were driving back with our first daughter from a long trip, and she was, 6 months old, and she was in the back seat. And she was crying, and my wife would like climb from the front to the back and like soothe her. And like, I kind of suggested, I was like, why don't we just let her cry? And we did. And it took her, I don't know, she cried for like an hour. And my wife was literally,
oh my goodness,
like kind of sobbing, while it was happening. Like it broke her heart. Now we drive on trips, and our youngest now is, almost 2. She'll cry for 2-3 hours straight, and we'll literally just have the radio on, and it doesn't faze either of us, including her. She's like, whatever, she's going to cry.
Yeah.
It's her choice.
I remember when we took home our first one from the hospital, and there were all these hospital resources, like several, where they would tell you if your child's screaming and crying and you haven't gotten sleep and you're feeling overwhelmed, put the baby down, allow them to cry, and go out and leave the room. And it was really what they were doing is coaching in postpartum, because you would hear about these stories where people would have, they wouldn't have slept, they've got a crying child, and it would be really, really overwhelming. And we used to have a policy where we would kind of yell help from the other room. And it was a no questions asked policy where the other one of us would go in, we would swap the kid, and the other one would take him, the other one would do whatever it was. We were going back to bed or whatever it was. And when our first was really young was when it was the most, because we were, it was the middle of the night, so we weren't sleeping. We're holding them, trying to get to go back down. And yeah, we haven't.
Man, I'm lucky. My wife handled all of the night shift whole time. Both kids.
Yeah, that is nice. That was not me either.
No, it does.
Yeah, no.
I don't envy you guys.
When you're at the very, I'm sure you guys remember it, but like any sort of sound, and they're new sounds, like you don't realize how many noises they make when they're sleeping. But yeah, like any sort of sound, you're waking up. So I'm sure now that you're used to what those are like, and that they're okay, you can probably sleep a little bit better. But at the beginning, we had him sleeping in our room next to us, and even when he is asleep, they're still making noise, and so we're waking up all the time, just like, oh, is he okay? What's going on?
Do you have a noisemaker, Michael?
We do. Yeah, we've got a white noisemaker. So now that he's in a separate room, it's much better. But yeah, at the beginning, like he was on my side of the bed, because my wife would wake up to any little thing where I could sleep through a little bit more.
The new baby alertness is very real.
Mm-hmm.
I remember with our first, I remember waking up almost every hour, if not hour and a half, going over and like making sure, like, is he breathing, putting my hand on his stomach, putting my finger in front of his, and when they're newborns, most people, when they start letting other people hold their kid, the kid's a little more substantial, but you forget how small newborns are. I mean, they come out, they're
tiny little things.
Tiny. Yeah. And, and their breathing is tiny. Everything's tiny. So it's, very high alert for the first kid. We haven't stressed it much about it for the second one, but but the first one, it was very, very concerning.
So he's not eating at all, huh? So
we're testing. We're giving him, I think it's called baby led weaning or something.
Baby led weaning.
Weaning. Yeah. We're doing that program right now. So we're giving him, chunks of banana. We're giving him the mango seed. We're giving him just kind of like big whole foods that he can kind of taste on. He'll eat a little bit, but a lot of times it's a couple bites and then whatever goes in his mouth, he spits right out.
Anymore, huh? Wow.
Yeah, and it's fun though. He enjoys it. It's more so playtime.
Oh, right on. Okay.
Their stomachs are pretty darn small.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind, it's because he's still is your wife still breastfeeding?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. We did a little bit of formula at the beginning because we had to supplement because he just wasn't getting enough food. But now, yeah, all breast milk.
So I didn't realize this conversation was going to go so into the young kid, baby process of this call, but doctors, you talk to a doctor and they'll always pick something to fix or point at and be like, oh, you got to do this. When our son was born, doctor prescribed a little bit of formula to supplement because they thought he had lost some weight when he was first born.
They always do.
We did not. Yeah, exactly. They always do. They always do. They're always like, hey, this is what you need to do this thing. And, and the fact that he needed some formula, oh my God, my wife was in tears. That it was this like, oh, well, I'm not doing it right. Yeah. I'm not, and it was not the case. It was not the case. And just on a side note, my son's 2.5. He still doesn't eat anything. He's fine. He couldn't be happier. And my wife was like, he needs to eat. And she's like, all he's had today are 2 Ritz. And, but yet he is running around the house. He's jumping off furniture. Like malnourished, clearly not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, clearly he is just fine.
Mm-hmm.
But if you read too much of the parenting blogs or you start listening to, I'll call it anything that is too alarming, it's, you can don't go too far down those rabbit holes. You still know best as a parent. And I also have to comment, all the parenting blogs, all of the news sources that are out there that are like, oh, well, this is how you're supposed to parent your kid. And they're all new. Oh, your parents did it like this. Don't do that. You have to do it like this. So, but all these parenting blogs will say things like, oh, you have to do it different than your parents did, because they have to. If they just said, oh, do what your parents did, you turned out fine, then they wouldn't make any money.
For sure.
They have
the incentives are perverse.
Yeah. So, the new age parenting and things like that, like, don't get me wrong, you should listen to your doctor, but like, dude, your kid's fine. Don't worry. Everything's
Dude, we're already out of car seats almost entirely for both kids. And we don't do doctor's visits either.
Do you remember when you were a kid and you would just sleep in the back of the car without a car seat?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, dude. Dude,
yeah. Like
you are reminded, like, the car seat industry is constantly lobbying to like make it a law for kids to sit in car seats longer and longer. Like, next thing you know, you're going to have to sit in one till you're 21.
Yeah. The laws are longer and they shame people for not doing it. Like, if you're some parent and you don't have a whatever top rated car seat,
you got to buy a new one every 18 months.
Yeah.
God. Sorry, Michael. We're just lamenting here. It's like bringing back all these memories with these 7-month-olds, man. Is your son crawling yet? Crawling, walking? Where's he at?
Not yet. He's sitting up. He's loves sitting up. He loves being on his belly too. And then he can lay down. He can kind of go in circles. So he can almost army crawl in circles. If you put a toy to his left or right, he'll kind of go around, but he won't go forward and backwards yet. Where I would assume in the next few weeks we'll get
any day now.
He's like if there's a toy just out of his reach, he tries so hard, but he just can't do it and gets frustrated. But he's moving around a little bit, so it's coming.
Did he ever have the crazy eyes?
No.
Your son didn't do crazy eyes? No.
What are crazy eyes?
My first daughter did crazy eyes. Her eyes didn't they weren't synced up for like the first month. They were just wobbling. You know, like crazy eye. It's a thing, dude, because the muscles are just not developed. Yeah, you know the movie was what Happy? No, not Happy Gilmore, but it's not the Adam Sandler movie where he inherits $1 million, a bunch of money.
Billy Madison.
No,
No,
much more recent.
Oh, Big Daddy.
No, it's more recent than that. Very sneaky, sir. They remember the guy that's very sneaky, the butler. All right. Well, there's a guy in that movie with crazy eyes, so that's it. They just wobble everywhere. But the second one, yeah, the nurses told us it was normal when she was born, and it was just like, yeah, the muscles aren't developed yet. Our second daughter came out with straight eyes off the jump, so I don't know.
I feel like it's pretty alarming as a parent.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird because you never knew she was looking at you.
Gosh, how funny.
Yeah.
So Michael, let's go back to, I mean, we can talk more about the baby stuff. We love that kind of content on here, but in general, so you started your business 3 years ago, and did you have any experience prior, or you were just like, hey, look, this is what we want to do, and we want to go out and start buying deals?
So I graduated with an economics and finance degree. Jumped right into commercial real estate on the brokerage side of things. So I had a little bit of experience on the brokerage side, and so I met my business partner. He had some single family rentals and was also doing turns and everything and remodeling with on the apartments, on the apartment side of things with other owners here in the cities. And so when he and I connected, it was kind of I guess long story short, it's like he had the money, but didn't have the time. I just graduated, all the time in the world, didn't have the money. So he and I basically teamed up and then joined a mentorship program where I learned as much as I could, and then also started partnering and co-GPing with other operators. One, I guess, big advantage I had, my finance professor, Drew Whitson, his company, Endurus Capital, they own, 3,000-4,000 units across the country. They're really large owner operator. He opened a lot of doors for me and was a huge part in my acceleration, I guess, and being able to kind of work with him and kind of shadow him. So yeah, that's how we did it. We essentially, I just kind of took the risk and knew that this was something I wanted to do in the future, and I really had nothing to lose at that point because I was starting out with nothing anyway. So if I failed, I'm back to square one. So what's the risk on my part? It was more so a risk on my business partner to trust me and lean into me, and that I was gonna take this opportunity and run. And so the first year and a half was just a huge learning curve. Partnered, got a small piece of GP on some deals, but obviously not enough to have the business running and operating it by itself. So I was still representing some sellers and buyers on the commercial real estate side of things, on the brokerage side of things. And then last year is when we were the lead sponsor on 3 deals. And that's now at this point we're off and running, and I'm full time on this side of the business. And we're actually under contract on a 252 unit right now that should close. We just finished our on-site due diligence. So looking at about 60 days out. So we're working on that raise right now, it'll be the biggest raise we've done thus far. So things are now moving real fast, but at the beginning, yeah, it was very tough. It took a lot to get to where we're at now.
And how big were those deals, and where are they?
My first small piece of GP was in a deal in just outside of St. Louis, and then in Houston. So those not really counting. We just kind of brought in some capital, but the deals where we sourced the deal, underwrote it, got it under contract, put the team together, where we're the lead sponsors. That's a 72 unit in Rochester, Minnesota, and then a 19 unit in Rochester, and then a 48 unit in Maple Grove. And that's where it's like 5 minutes from my house. So, and then Rochester is about an hour and a half southeast.
And what coaching program were you doing?
The multifamily mindset was the group that we joined 3 years ago. And then I also, Michael Blanc. So my finance professor was a coach with Michael Blanc. So kind of didn't join the group, but kind of got some training with like through him, I guess.
So it sounds like I was curious, what led you to real estate right after school, because it's my version of college, I think, was much different than yours. I also studied finance, and I can remember one book that had one paragraph. The whole book was about securities, and it was like, there's a thing called alternative investments like real estate. And now we're going to talk about the stock market, and that was the rest of the class.
Yep.
That was like the one time that real estate was even mentioned in my entire finance, training in college. And so it sounds like you were kind of pushed towards real estate, or not pushed, but like exposed to it while you were in school, and decided already you wanted to get into it when you leave.
Yeah, I guess there's kind of two eye-opening moments that I can kind of point back to. My dad has some friends who are brokers in Dallas. And so one summer I just was networking and connected with those guys and really liked just what they had to say about, I think it was my junior year going into my senior year. Just really liked what they had to say about commercial real estate and real estate in general. Because in school, I wasn't like the curriculums are not really talking about real estate. We didn't have a real estate emphasis as a major or anything. And so I kind of got a sense that I originally wanted to be either like an analyst or do like financial advising. That's kind of what I thought. And then just after really diving into it, you realize so much of that is out of your control. Like ultimately, wherever the tide goes with the stock market, that's kind of where the portfolio is going to go. There's not a whole lot control that you have. And so when I learned a little bit more about real estate and that, the performance, you have direct control to an extent of the performance of the asset. Right. So like the work that you put into it can result in a better performing asset and higher valuation. And so I played hockey and golf in school. And so like that was attractive to me, being an athlete, that you get out what you put into it. And with real estate, it was very similar in that, if I'm going to work harder, I should be rewarded for that. And so that's why I was attracted to the brokerage side of things. It's like your ceiling, is as high as possible. Like there's no capped potential. Like you could go as far as you want. It's just however much work you want to put into it. So that was one instance. And then my finance professor, so I knew something was off because he drives a yellow Porsche as a convertible to school. I was like, he's definitely not, a professor's not his full-time gig. So I knew something was a little off there. And then when I started so you would see this Porsche in the parking lot and you're wondering who that is. And then eventually I started taking his classes and realized, that he was doing these syndications, and he actually had part of like a case study would be analyzing deals that they as a company were buying. And so that was super, super cool to be able to like underwrite and analyze deals while in school for a real life, problem or real life asset that they're buying. And so kind of those two happening similar times just kind of opened my eyes. And I was like, yeah, this is something I want to do. One, it's tangible. You can see it and you directly can impact, the performance of the asset. And then another kind of eureka moment, in one of my finance simulation classes, it was in 2020, right when the stock market, was on pause or whatever for, it dropped below, I think it was like 15% or whatever.
Oh yeah. It hit that threshold and they turned it off.
That hadn't been hit since 2008 or 2009. And I believe that the day before is when we picked the stocks for our simulation portfolio, and like the whole thing crashed, and we it just wrecked our portfolio. And that was like my first kind of glimpse into that market. Ultimately, the stock market did climb back, but that was kind of just talking about so much out of your control. That was, just you can do whatever you want to analyze a stock, but if the market itself crashes, like there's nothing you can do about it.
The whole world is against you almost.
Right.
The whole world is going to have its own something in the whole world that you didn't even think of. It's going to pop up and make everything move some weird way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fugazi. It's a fugazi.
Yeah.
It's a
for sure. Yeah, and a lot of, as you guys know, like with stocks, the valuation is it's projected. It's like how we think there's like Tesla and all these companies that are losing money every single year. They still have a really high valuation because it's just forecasting. And so to analyze and look at a business currently and that not be a reflection in their actual like stock price is kind of
bizarre.
And it's like a little annoying. It's like it's not a true valuation. It's kind of there's a lot of hypotheticals, and like the stock price can swing based on what Musk's tweeting, and so that part of it I just didn't really like, and so real estate. That's a long-winded answer to why
good, man.
I really got into real estate.
Yeah, well, it's the brick and mortar assets, physical assets you can touch, you can see, they exist. They have a specific purpose. You're not dealing with, it's really funny. People talk about all this digital currencies, and how they're planning on having digital currencies. Part of me just looks at like how much we do now with dollars via computers transacting any funds, with how much we don't really deal with even in cash. And you go, hey, we're not that far right now, literally. From what they're talking about. It might not be a tokenized, on a blockchain, but it's, stocks, when you really look at it and you start comparing, what a digital asset is worth based on supply and demand. And you could make some similarities.
You for sure can.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing that I took away from finance training was that just invest in index funds.
Yeah.
Cash. Cash. So, and that's, that's what Tony Robbins' book is all about. He's just like, don't invest in mutual funds ever. Like all they do is like kill you in fees. And, I really couldn't agree more. And it's just so funny that so much of our financial institutions are financial systems, all of these 401k plans, you're able to invest in stocks really almost fully. And then they even have rules on what kind of stocks you can invest in that they deem to be the right ones that you could put your money into versus ones that you might actually have a better outlook for. And, in putting money into a self-directed IRA or these other plans of using your own money or these other steps you have to go to even to put your long-term savings account into real estate. And it's, I'm so glad that you had an education that had a teacher who taught you real estate syndication and at that.
It warms my heart to hear that, honestly.
It does. Yeah. So my economics and business degree had a lot of economics, macro and micro, and I got a lot of education out of it. And I have a lot of good understanding when I read a lot of technical articles on the economy, but I would have loved to have a hands-on approach to, hey, this is how syndication works and equity multiples work at that age. That's fantastic. Got that.
Yeah, no, it's been huge. And like, I probably was on a call with him probably a month ago. Like we still are in touch. He's connects me with people all the time. He connects me with other operators and potential investors, as well as other students. Like students reach out to me all the time because he's able to say, hey, like literally 4 years ago, somebody's sitting in your seat and is doing this now. Like it's not that hard. You just have to put in the work. And so, no, it's been really cool. They still don't have a real estate like emphasis, a real estate degree. And so that's something I need to talk with Drew about and saying like, hey, like, let's go all in. I know you yourself are able to have like get these kids some sort of real estate experience, but the other finance professors don't. And so, I definitely think, it'd be super valuable for, students to have that option to learn about something that's a little bit more practical. Because when you're talking like micro and macro, it's a lot of hypothetical scenarios, not something that you can truly apply.
Yeah.
Philosophy of the business world. So Michael, with your parents, so you got into real estate, you've got a kid now. Where'd you come from?
So both my parents are teachers. So not the typical,
elementary,
no. So I was going to say not like the typical background. A lot of people that jump right into commercial real estate, it's in the family. Some doors are open that way, but no, my mom's a middle school teacher, and then my dad's a high school basketball coach, and then also a teacher, in Dallas. So grew up, kind of thought, the goal was get a good W-2 and then, build up your 401k and retire at some point. Not a very, I don't know, entrepreneurial, upbringing. I don't know if that makes sense, but my parents weren't really like, savvy with their money, I guess. It was just the typical, I forget the guy's name. Who's the big finance guy that's all about paying down all your debt?
Oh, Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey, thank you. Yeah, so pretty much the Dave Ramsey education is kind of what I got growing up.
Yeah.
And like most people, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad pretty early on, and like my mind was kind of blown, and looked at kind of the finance world a little bit different. I always was kind of entrepreneurial. Like I started a lawn mowing company when I was 16. So I didn't have a ton, but still, didn't really like, your typical jobs. I was always trying to buy and flip things on eBay and then, mow lawns for people. So I always saw myself as, getting into the entrepreneurial, world. But yeah, so grew up, both parents, teachers, dad was a coach. So summers, it was really, really nice because both parents were off. So I got to spend a lot of time with my parents and really got to enjoy, summers with my dad. And we both, I played a ton of sports growing up. So those are some of the best memories I have, just playing sports with him and going to sporting events. So that's something I want to continue and do with my son. And that is a reason why I'm kind of in this space, is to be able to have that flexibility and be able to travel with the family and work remote. And also, be able to take time off and really spend it with my kids, because like I had friends growing up that, hardly ever saw their dad. They worked 9 to 5. And then when they got home, they're still working, and then they go to bed, and you just see them on weekends, really. So I would prioritize, family over a little bit of extra money, because what are you going to do with that money? Like your time is, the most valuable thing you can have. So definitely was a good upbringing and got to spend a ton of time with my parents. And I want to do the same with my kids.
Dude.
Do you have any experiences, or no, I shouldn't say experiences, but now that you have your son, and I can only imagine you've got all of these ideas of things you want to teach him. What are some of those philosophies that you're looking forward to, when he's at the age where you can start, it's passing on education and wisdom to him?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I want to definitely instill in him, and my dad instilled in me, is just like your effort and attitude is kind of all that you can control. And so as long as you're giving maximum effort and you have a great attitude, things are going to happen that aren't ideal, and it doesn't do anything to get mad or sad or upset about it, because that's not going to solve the problem. That's you're just making an excuse. And so that's where there's like sports and athletics really taught me to only control what I can control. And that applies to everything in business and life, obviously in sports. And so that rule of, if you have an obstacle in front of you, okay, what can I control, and just focus 100% on that. That also frees up a lot of stress. It's hard, but like in real estate, there are so many things to worry about, and there's so many things that can go wrong. And if you're always going with the flow of the highs and lows, and you're always worrying about what could go wrong and what is going wrong, like you're never going to be able to relax. You'll go crazy if you're always just going. Yeah. So I've applied that to real estate, and like, okay, is this a problem that like I can control or not? And just focus on what you can control. So, that's definitely something that my dad, instilled in me, and something that would love to, instill in my son, and also, lead by example in that.
It's the title of our episode right there. Effort and attitude is all you can control.
It's true, man. That's like a huge. I couldn't have come up with a better answer if I'd have tried. Michael, I'm super excited to see you in 5 years and 10 years, dude. Like you're you're an inspiring dude, man.
Well, thank you. No, that feels good. I mean, it's a lot of, your head's down a lot of time and you're just buried in all your work. And it's nice to kind of relate to some other people, because there's not a whole lot of people, entrepreneurs that are also, wanting to be good fathers and good dads. And so it's nice to be connected with like-minded people and have reassurance that, what you're doing is good, because a lot of people will neglect fatherhood and just pursue the career.
Yeah, within our interviews, one thing that we do ask guys a lot is, has being a father kind of sharpened them, and you're a young dad, so your business career's been very tied to also having your kid be around, at least for this last, 7 months.
Yep, 7 months.
7 months. So I guess for me, I didn't have my first child till I was 41. So it was significantly, later, but I just saw how much it kind of sharpened me. So for you, I'm looking forward to seeing how, when you've got your 4 kids and you've got your huge real estate.
He's closed 3 deals and he's got 1 in contract. So it sounds like it.
I know.
There's some correlation there between the kid and the career going on.
The other thing for you also, Michael, just on a side note, for you to be doing 3 deals in last year, and a big one this year, that's pretty big right now. There's a lot. There's the transaction volume nationally is 10% at the peak. So also hats off to you in regards to really making some waves during this period of time in the market. Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. No, it's as you guys know, it's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of no's and just a few yeses. So it's a numbers game. It takes time, but we've been very fortunate. We've had some pretty solid deals that came up just, from some people might look at it as luck. It definitely is some luck, but we're putting ourselves in those positions so the bounces fall right for us.
Absolutely. Do you have any advice to other young guys who are planning on being a dad soon, starting their business career? Anything you can say to these guys who are, your age?
I'd say the advice would be just try to enjoy every single, pretty cliche, but enjoy like every moment that you're in. Some of them are hard and you're ready to move on and get to the next phase, but that those are still moments that you're never going to have again. So at the same time as we're talking, sleep is super hard. I know that in 20 years from now, I would trade anything to get back to the moment that I'm in now. So that's something that I've been trying to prioritize, and it's hard and it's not easy, but just knowing like this is a really special time. That's what I've been trying to focus on. So I don't know. That'd be the advice, is to enjoy those moments, even if they're not always fun.
Well, Trevor and I still have fun moments with our kids who are young, and we have the same thoughts that this is the youngest they're going to be ever. But we also have talked to some dads who've got like teenagers and young adult kids, and they're just like, duh. you haven't even gotten to the challenges yet. So we look forward to having those in stride. But Michael, we really appreciate you coming on, and we'd love to have you back on. You got some more stories. We'd love to hear them. If you got any milestones with your kid, we'd love to hear them. You get this deal done. That's 248, 242,
252. Yeah.
252. We'd love to hear how it goes. You got a big raise coming up. How much do you have to raise for that?
10 million.
Nice.
10 million. All right. And if people who are listening to this want to get in contact with you, how do they do that?
NorthLoneStar.com. On our website, you can join our investor list, or you can reach out. I've got a toggle on there. You can message me. North, NorthLonestar.com.
Awesome. And for other listeners of the show, you can contact us as hosts, and you can find this episode on our website, in addition to YouTube, the realestateDadsPodcast.com. And on that site, there's also access to a Slack channel where you can network with other dads who are doing any of the stuff that we're talking about on the show, raising capital, looking for deals, and also just going through dadding, whatever that is in regards to activities with your kid, working through potty training, sleep training, also some young adult things for the dads who have kids who are older than us, who are the hosts. There's also a link on that website for if you want to be a guest, which if you've got an amazing story about being a dad, we'd love to have you. Michael, Thanks so much for being a guest. We love the information. We love the wisdom, and congratulations on your firstborn. And we look forward to hearing more successes for you as a dad and your business career.
Thank you guys. That was awesome. Appreciate it. Let's do it again sometime.
We absolutely will. Thanks, Michael.